Celebrations like this are really important times in our lives, much like the gospel and the early experience of the church today in this gospel. Jesus Christ kind of shows up in our lives and throws in, I believe, some surprises. I'd venture to say that the disciples, those earlier followers of Jesus, they didn't expect Jesus to show up in the midst of that empty room. They were confused, they were in fear, they were in grief, and that's exactly what the scriptures recall, is that in the midst of that, Jesus shows up and says, "Peace be with you. Peace be with you." And not only does he do that, but he shows up in very surprising ways outside of that as well, because he shows up and he says, "Here, look, it's really me. Here's the nail marks in my hands. Here's the sword, where the sword was in my side. It's really me, and I'm here to say, don't worry. Don't worry, peace be with you. You don't need to fear. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to know that I'm here and with you." And then here's another surprise. You have within you the power, each of you, to hold each other in your sin or to set one another free. In fact, my friends, you might not know this, but in the Aramaic language, the word that is used in the scriptures today is tabawatha. Tabawatha. That word not only means forgiveness, it also means freedom. It's the same word used for the same experience, forgiveness and freedom. So to forgive is actually to have compassion for another and to set one's self free. I wonder if Jesus didn't understand the early church and realize that it couldn't start off holding resentments and wallowing in their woundedness, or it would be doomed to failure. So he reminded them, and he reminds us all, that you have the power within you to forgive yourself and to forgive others, or to bind yourselves up and bind others as well. It's somewhat like we do in the celebration of this sacrament with Ian. Ian's presence here today reminds us. It reminds us that we have the opportunity, we have the power within us to transform ourselves and our world. Traditionally, we call those things exactly the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit, right? Remember that? In confirmation, they used to make us memorize those things, and you'll never remember them all. Well, you might if you get old, but forget it. These are the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. They're wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, piety, and fear of the Lord, which really means awe of the Lord. I really think we could name those gifts the 7 gifts of freedom. Because if you and I were to live them all and do it consistency, our lives would be free from fear, they would be free from anger, they'd be free from resentment, ignorance, arrogance, judgment, and ego. You see, this sacrament, my friends, this sacrament, and Ian, what you're doing today is a testimony and a witness to the power of the Holy Spirit in our lives and in our midst. So let me say, on behalf of the community, let me say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a witness. Thank you for the struggling with your faith, and thank you for attempting to reconcile it with your experience as well, right? Even in the conversations we've had, I know it's not easy to take what you hear and what you experience and sometimes it doesn't fit, right? We had that experience. We had that talk too. It's just sometimes faith and life don't seem to go together, and that's really where we spend our time. My friends, we spend our time in that gap, trying to understand what's happening and trying to make sense of it. And sometimes we can make it work, and sometimes we just have to say, okay, I'll live with the mystery because I don't understand it. It's just not going to make any sense. But we do know the one thing that Jesus did today in the gospel is the same thing that Jesus does for us. He shows up and he says, peace. Peace be with you. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to understand it all. You just need to celebrate the gifts that are there. And if we celebrate those gifts of freedom, if we choose to live them, I really believe that we can transform the world. If I didn't, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.